So then he says, now this is really important because we're getting to the فإن قلت فصل لي علم طريق الآخرة تفصيلا. Clarify to me in detail, what is this path of the akhirah that you're talking about? فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ قِسْمًا. Know that it has two categories. علم مكاشفة وعلم معاملة. In the translation, he interprets it as the knowledge of revelation, which is not that. It's the knowledge of unveiling or inspiration that comes. Mukashifa is the unveilings that occur to the heart, that these are tajalliyat. And the second is ilm mu'amala. So the first category, ilm al-mukashifa, is the knowledge of the inward, ilm al-batin. It's the knowledge of the inward. وَذَلِكَ غَايَةَ الْعُلُومِ. This is really the aim and purpose of all knowledges. All sciences, the aim and purpose of them is to understand the inward realities. These are the first causes. This is what true understanding is, to understand the first causes behind things. And the first causes are never outward. They're metaphysical truths that are behind the outward. And then he says, some of the arifin, some of these people of this knowledge of ma'rifah, they say, "Man lam yakun lahu nasibun min hadha al-ilm, akhafu alayhi su' al-khatima." If you don't have a portion of this knowledge, I fear for you a bad ending in your life. So what does he say about this? Very interesting. وَقَالَ آخِرُ. He says, وَأَدْنَى نَصِيبٌ مِنْهُ التَّصْدِيقُ بِهِ وَتَسْلِيمُهُ لِأَهْلِهِ. The least portion of this knowledge is that you believe in it and its people. That there's people that have this knowledge. If you reject the awliya, right? Bad sign. أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. There are maratib, degrees of wilaya. There are degrees of wilaya. And wilaya is the special providence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given His entire creation providential care. All of His creation has providential care. Obviously, free will has an effect. And so you see a lot of evil and you see these horrible things. But it's not a sign that Allah's providential care isn't there. No, His providential care is there. That providential care, though, has degrees. And if you want more articulation of this, you can look at an essay that I wrote in the Dua al-Nasiri about that Allah's love is for His entire creation. His love is for the whole of creation. And this is from Amir Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi, who relates it to other scholars' understandings. This idea that God hates some of His creation, no. He has a mahabba amma and then a mahabba khasa. So when you see verses like, "Inna Allah la yuhibbu al-zalimin," Allah doesn't love the oppressors. They don't get His mahabba khasa. They get the mahabba amma. There's bughd, because Allah hates, but not in you can't look at it in an anthropomorphic way, like it's emotion. You know, that God's petulant and that He has love like we have love. That's a big mistake to do that. But Allah has created a creation out of His rahmah. And so to deny that rahmah, no. Rahmati wasi'at kulla shay. My mercy encompasses all things. And rahmah is from mahabba. Allah's mahabba encompasses all things. All things. But that specific love is for the people of wilaya, and that love intensifies with the intensity of the wilaya. And then another one said you have there's two qualities that if they're not in a person, they won't have any portion of this knowledge. The first one is bid'ah. You have to have a sound belief, true belief, and you have to have sound practice. So if you have bid'ah in your belief or bid'ah in your practice, and then that's why it's important to learn fiqh, so you don't fall into, because bid'ah, a lot of people use that word, they throw it around, but they don't really understand it. And I think in some of the other classes, they might have talked about the different types. Shaykh Jamal, I think, is going to talk about that if he hasn't already, about the different types of bid'ah. So he's talking about bid'ah madhmuma, unacceptable. And also, he said, من كان محبا للدنيا مصرا على هوى لم يتحقق به وقد يتحقق بسائر العلوم وأقل عقوبة من ينكره ألا يرزق منه شيئا. He said that whoever loves this world or follows his caprice, he'll never realize this knowledge, even if he realizes all the other knowledges. And the least of his punishment in rejecting it is that he won't be given any portion of it. And he says this is the knowledge of the Siddiqeen and the Muqarrabeen, of the sincere ones like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and the Muqarrabeen. This is the highest degree of wilayah, the ilmun mukashifa. So here's what he says. All right, so now you're going to get what the most that he can say, because he says this book is not about mukashifa. He said it's not something you put in books. It's something that's experienced. But what he's going to say here is pretty much all that he can say. He says, فهو عبارة عن نور يظهر في القلب عند تطهيره وتزكيته من صفاته المذمومة. It is this, what we call علم المكاشفة, is an expression that indicates a light in the heart, that manifests in the heart once it's been purified and removed of its negative qualities. And that light will he said, وَيَنْكَشِفُ فِي ذَلِكَ النُّورُ أُمُورٌ. So certain things are made clear because of that light. Just like light enables you to see things, that light in the heart enables you to perceive things. And so he says that he says, فيتوهم لها معاني مجملة غير متضحة فتتضح إذ ذاك حتى تحصل المعرفة الحقيقية بذات الله سبحانه. And so before you really know it, that people can say things and they can have ideas of what these meanings are, just general ideas, but it's not clear to them. It only is clear when that true knowledge emerges about the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وبصفاته الباقية التامات وبأفعاله وبحكمته في خلق الدنيا والآخرة, and understanding why he has done this world. You see, why he has done this. And this is why these people are in real submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a completely different way, because they understand what's really going on. They understand this hikmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in his creation, the wisdom behind these things. They understand these things. And so they don't get the confusion that people that don't have this knowledge get. They don't have the same level of confusion, because they see clearly that Allah is Rahman and Rahim. Everything he does is for the benefit of our species. And he doesn't oppress us. We oppress ourselves. That we have free will, and yet at the same time there's a type of determinism. And this is one of the paradoxes of our tradition, that Imam Ali radiallahu anhu said, somebody asked him about that, and he told about qadar and the ijbar and the takhir, free choice, and he told him, lift one leg. He lifted it, and he said, now lift the other without putting that down. He said, I can't. He said, it's between the two. So that's one of Allah's secrets. But we've been told if you delve too deeply in that, it'll confuse you. But we believe that we are responsible for our actions, and yet our actions are purely enabled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he says this also will give you an understanding of the nature of angelic forces and demonic forces, that there are light forces working in creation and dark forces. And we want to accrue the madad, the help of the angelic forces. Dhikr does that, knowledge and learning does that, but we also want to avoid the the dark forces. And so there's protection that you have to do in order to avoid these dark forces. So this is very important. And these are the knowledges that come from that, because there are shayateen al-ins and there are shayateen al-jinn. There are demons that are of jinn and ins. وَكَيْفِيَّةُ مُعَادَةِ الشَّيْطَانِ الْإِنسان. And then how shaitan is fighting the human being, the techniques that these demonic forces use. You get an understanding of that. وَكَيْفِيَّةُ ظُهُورِ الْمَلَكِ لِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ. How the angels manifest to the prophets and how wahi comes to them, and understanding the nature of the heavenly kingdom, the nature of the heart, and then also how the angels and the shayateen themselves are in a conflict. So these positive forces and negative forces are working also. معرفة الفرق بين لمة الملك ولمة الشيطان. Knowing the difference between demonic and angelic inspiration. Knowing what the akhirah is. Understanding Jannah and Nar. Understanding the punishment of the grave. What the sirat is. What the mizan is. The bridge. The balance. Also the hisab. The reckoning. كَفَى بِنَفْسِكَ الْيَوْمَ عَلَيْكَ حَسِيبًا. Today your nafs is your own accountant. Right? Because you're going to see your whole life. I mean, now we have reality TV, we have all these things. People didn't have any idea of having a replay of their lives. I mean, they were just told, you're going to see your life. It's literally, Imam al-Ghazali said, you will see your life moment by moment. Now we have what's called editing discretion here. It's called Toba. So you can edit out things in this film that you're going to see. You don't want to see the director's cut, right? You want to see the edited version, right? Ya Satar. So there's things you can edit out on this, but you are going to see your whole life. And this is what we were told. تُعْرَضُ عَلَيَّ أَعْمَالُ أُمَّتِي. The actions of my ummah are shown to me. Subhanallah. The actions of my ummah are shown to me. فَإِذَا وَجَدْتُ خَيْرًا حَمِدْتُ اللَّهِ. If I see good, I praise God. وَإِذَا وَجَدْتُ غَيْرَ ذَلِكَ اسْتَغْفَرْتُ لَهُمْ. And if I see other than that, I beg forgiveness of them. لَا تُوَاخِذْهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The Prophet said that there was one of the prophets covered in blood, and he said to the people that were punishing him, oh God, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. And that's what he said at Uhud. Forgive my people, they don't know what they're doing. He asked forgiveness, one of the problematic hadith for some of the ulama. He asked forgiveness of them. In other words, that Allah would give tawbah and bring them into the fold. So those are all things that come from that. And then understanding these verses, وَإِنَّ دَارُ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. That the abode of the next world is the true life if they but knew that this life will appear like a dream compared to the next world. كَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ الْغِطَاءِ. We're going to remove, this is mukashifa in the next world. We're going to remove the veils. فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. Your sight today is piercing. In the akhirah, you're going to see, it's all but there are people here that experience that. They see the reality of the world. It gets unveiled for them. They see the sicknesses in the world. They see what people are doing to themselves. And their hallmark is compassion. They don't have ihtiqar. There's a lot of people that get unveilings, but they don't have the spiritual. They're not spiritual vessels for those unveilings. So they see the reality, the bovine nature of a lot of people. And they make fun of them, they mock them, they become comedians, and they laugh at them. They mock them. They see, they have intellects, and they look and they see how stupid we are as a species. And they use that as brunts for their jokes about people, the mustahzi'un. Right? Because people are. We're a ridiculous species from one perspective. Other than the prophets and the awliya, we're a ridiculous species. The things we fight over, our pettiness, our stupidities, our dysfunctionalities, all of these things. We're the brunt of jokes. But when you have the prophetic heart, when you have the heart of wilayah, you have compassion for these people. You want to elevate them from their bovine reality to a spiritual reality, to take them out of their inhum kal an'am. They're like cows. No, they're not cows. They're created in a metaphysical image of reality. They're created in the form of a prophet, Adam alayhi salam. They have the potential to have the light of iman, of faith and ma'rifah in their hearts. So this is what he's saying. These are the realities.